Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining. My name is Liz Suck. I'm the executive director for Oakland Rising. And it's just one Oakland Rising. I don't know why I said that twice. And today we are going to have Clarissa Doutherd. Woo! I had this all set up and that was precarious. Sorry, y'all. Let me. There we go. Sorry, y'all went for a ride for a second on that one. We are going to have Clarissa Doutherd join us today to talk about saving Head Start. So we're really excited about that. And next week we'll be talking with James Birch, the political director. Oh, and there's James. He'll be joining us next Monday to talk about macro, and there'll be some calls to action. So y'all should know that the Libby Schaff administration and the city attorney, Barbara Parker, are trying to really block community input to the macro program and its development. So it is not launched yet, y'all, and we need to get that launched, and we need community input, and we need folks from MH First and APTP and the Defund Coalition to really be a part of looking at how we do that. And we do it in a way that is accountable to the community. And Barbara Parker is really trying to block that by saying that city staff do not need input from the community, which is really ridiculous to me. There is so much in terms of our setup. We have boards and commissions and all of that. So anyways, check out our social media. Oakland Rising will be putting out a bunch of stuff today, calling for people to come out to the Public Safety Committee meeting tomorrow. Sorry, James. Yeah, it's next week so that we can get mobilized around. We could mobilize around next week for the City Council meeting. Today we're going to be talking about Head Start. Saving Head Start, because that's another thing that the city administration is trying to cut, and was saved by city council and got some funding for that. So Clarissa is going to get on with us from Parent Voices Oakland to talk with that. Sorry, James, about the confusion. I thought I had said that in the thread that it was next Monday. And I don't see Clarissa yet, but if you really are enjoying our Oakland Rising Monday Meals events, please feel encouraged to join us and go to oaklandrising.org/donate. Yes, James, please eat lunch. I hope you're eating something yummy and nutritious. And here comes Clarissa. And let me... Please get lunch. You all are... Hey, there's Clarissa!
Hi. Let's get on my technology together. Yay, this is my first Instagram Live. So
Hey!
this campaign has brought a lot of firsts for me. Let me tell you that.
I'm so excited. I'm loving your glasses. Those are really nice
Thank
ones.
you.
Oh, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Liz.
Yeah. So Clarissa Doutherd, Executive Director for Parent Voices Oakland. Thank you for joining today. And, just to let you know, Parent Voices Oakland is is one of our Oakland Rising collaborative partners. So we're really excited to work with you on this and like get the word out because I
Yeah.
also am a little confused about the whole Head Start thing. I've been
Yeah.
reading about it and like talk to you about it, but I'm also I think it'd be really good. Like if I'm confused, I'm sure pretty sure a lot of folks were about what
Absolutely.
really went down and what's going on and what can they do and all of that stuff.
Sure.
But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about Parent Voices Oakland, and then also, and yourself, and
Mhm.
then what are you having for lunch? Because it is called Monday Meals, and it's all about like figuring out what's nourishing your body, mind, and heart. So,
Yeah, I love that question. Thank you. So my name is Clarissa Doutherd. I'm part of Parent Voices Oakland. Well, I'm the executive director. I do
I was
feel
like,
like
come on.
I'm a parent and community leader that I started out in the organization as a leader and a volunteer, and I still very much identify right with that position. But I'm currently serving as executive director for Parent Voices Oakland. I've been in that role for almost 8 years now. So, but you can't take the leader out of me, the community leader out of me,
No,
which is
no.
who we center. And so the organization advocates for affordable quality childcare. We do that through budget and revenue fights at the state and local level. And now we're starting to look at more national policy, but it is about making sure that families have access to affordable quality childcare. We know childcare is extremely expensive, and there are incredibly deep inequities in the way that systems deliver childcare. The folks who take care of our babies every single day, and this is about parents being able to provide and work, but it's so much more than that, right? It's definitely about how we center care in our society, right?
That's right.
How we center care, who's being cared for, and whose labor is valued as a caregiver, because that is extraordinarily valuable and important work.
That's right.
Yeah, and so we work on other policies. Right now, we have a campaign, a birthing justice campaign, looking at the infant mortality rates for Black babies in Oakland, in specific zip codes, and all throughout Alameda County. But those rates have tripled over the last 10 years in Oakland,
Hmm.
specifically in Alameda, the broader Alameda County area. And then, of course, Safe Head Start,
Right.
which felt like it sprang up out of nowhere, but there have been, long, deeply problematic challenges in the way that, our city has prioritized early education as one of its services, a huge service that it provides.
That's right. That's right. It's really big too.
Yes.
Um, but what are you having for lunch?
Okay, so for lunch right now, I'm just drinking tea. I couldn't actually wait until noon. I got hungry. And so I already ate. I already nourished myself.
Okay, so you had
So
brunch.
yes, I did. I do that often. That's one of the benefits of working at home.
That's
I
right.
can make a little brunch for myself. You know what I mean? So I did eat, and it was very good. Thank you
Good.
for asking.
Good. I'm having a smoothie. I'm still trying to finish my
Nice.
morning smoothie. But
Nice.
I see in the chat Malik's art said remain creative. Yeah. So what is another way that you are nourishing your heart and your mind?
Nice. One way that I nourish my heart and my mind, I have had a meditation practice for the last, um, oh goodness, 5 years now. And
Nice.
I'm not, it ebbs and flows, to be
Yep.
honest.
Right.
And whenever you say meditation, I think it brings up different feelings and
Yes.
emotions for people, right? And
That's right.
I'm not some ascended being, right? Yet, in terms of, like, I don't know, someone in a monastery, or, people think you're incredibly disciplined, but really, meditation I've been able to, tailor it to my life, whether that's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or 30 minutes. But I make a habit of making my bed and meditating. And I've done all different types of meditation. Even that has been a place of creativity and inquiry for myself. and a place to express myself through meditation. And so a lot of friends are like, oh, that's boring. And, there's an aspect of spirituality to it. But for me, it has been very creative. It's been a place of feeling cared for and, and taking space. And so when I don't do it, I often feel a little bit ungrounded, but mostly it's just been a place to be with myself.
That's right.
So that I can then, so then people don't bother me and annoy me as much. So then I can be with other people. Like if I can be with myself first, then I can be with other people. And
that's right.
In these sometimes challenging, but
right.
definitely intentional ways.
Right. Cause it's a practice in and of itself around compassion, right? It's like
That's
having
right.
compassion for yourself. It's like, I'm going to make this space just for myself.
Yeah.
So I could be with myself and be okay with that.
That's right.
Yes.
I do cook as a way to also express
Me
myself.
too.
Yeah, I love cooking.
We should do some cooking together. And
We should.
yeah,
Yes, throw
because
down.
yeah, that would be a good collab because
Yeah.
I want to try your cooking. Um, and yes, Malik's art wrote, creativity is the soul's food. Yes, it
Absolutely.
is. It is. And y'all
Absolutely.
should put in the chat like the ways in which you're nourishing yourself, with your body, mind, and soul, all of that. But today we're going to like fill our minds up here to learn a little bit about Head Start, how it works, what went wrong, why is they trying to cut it, what are the ways people can involve, what are the ways that people are trying to save it, and the work that y'all are doing around it.
Yeah.
So break it down, Clarissa.
Okay, well, just thank you for everybody that's joined.
Yes.
It's really beautiful to see folks in the space. Just to keep things as clear and simple as possible, Head Start is a federally funded program that our city administers. And, the city of Oakland Head Start has a long history dating back into the 70s. Head Start is a early care and education program, but it is so much more, and it is so much more. Head Start is is an anti-poverty program. It is a program that provides pretty intensive wraparound services. So that's everything from developmental screenings, that's everything from referrals to social services. They're the curriculum and the structure of the program is meant to ensure that children have everything that they need to start school. There's a really strong connection between the K through 12 system and Head Start, and many families go to Head Start specifically to make sure that their kids, their babies have the best opportunity to be successful in kindergarten. And over the years, there's been such an emphasis on kindergarten readiness, which is can be pretty racist and problematic, but we're not going to get into that now. But there are all these assessments and things that happen in kindergarten as children are getting prepared for literacy.
Right.
And Head Start has been an incredible model to ensure that the building blocks for literacy happen. And again, it's similar but different to the childcare system, the childcare subsidy system, which is different, where you get subsidies from the state or potentially local subsidies. Head Start really looks at the whole family, right? It is a model that has its roots in the New Deal, right after the Depression, the Depression era war on poverty. And so it looks at everything from nutrition, like I said, nutrition and family stability. So, Head Start's been an incredibly important program. There are, I'm not remembering the number of centers in this moment, but there was a very large center, if folks recall, in Eastmont Mall that served anywhere between 100 and 108 children. And that was closed by the federal government. And not because the Head Start program in the city did anything wrong, but due to changes in the city's contract, the Head Start Center in Eastmont Mall was shut down, and it really is awful because it served a high number of Black families and had and Latino families, and had WIC, the library, social services, all in one place. So I think what I'm trying to get to is that you know, anytime we have a hub or grouping of services in one place that families can utilize, that is incredibly important, right? Because, you know, I don't know if folks, you know, put down in the comments if you've been there, having to go to 6 or 7 agencies to get services. I
That's
mean,
right.
these are families who, you know, you may need to go and get, you know, WIC. You may need to go and get diapers. You might have to go to a food pantry or
That's
two,
right.
right?
That's right.
And then every single process, because, you know, it's monitored and because there's reporting and data, you have to fill out eligibility forms. And so, you know, Head
There's
Start is
so
a
much of
place,
that. It's like
and
this,
families,
like
it's a
here's the hoop,
job.
here's a
Yeah,
hoop, jump through
yeah,
this hoop, and then you got to be
yeah,
able to fit in this hoop. Like,
yes. Jump through the hoop, fit through the hoop. There may not be a hoop. You might not know where to
and then
go.
it's like this, it's like this.
It's a moving target all the
And then
time. And I
there's
think,
multiple
well,
ones.
and the pandemic, we don't even, I mean, I can't even imagine, you know, and my son is 14 now, and I spent, you know, I would get on, I mean, I would cry because I didn't know if I had enough money to go, you know, make 3 or 4 transfers on the bus, right?
That's
So
right.
there was, you know, I'd be going from east to west Oakland all day just trying to get all the applications,
Yep.
all of the appointments,
That's
all of
right.
these things turned in. So one of the things we do in Parent Voices is really talk about that and impact those processes.
Mm,
And so what's so critical about the City of Oakland's Head Start is many of those programs are housed in Parks and Rec.
right.
You have relationships between the site directors and community, the teachers and community, and not some of, all of the things that these very committed teachers, instructors, family advocates, all of the services that they provide in this one place, and the ways that they are caring for families with multiple children, again, multiple generations, and really building these very deep relationships, not just with the community, but our faith institutions. You know, again, the food, Alameda County Food Bank is a huge, you know, formal and informal partner, just
Mm-hmm.
similar to teachers in our K through 12 system. These are grandmothers, mothers, aunties, you know, largely women identified folks
Mm-hmm.
who are doing everything for families and children. So the city of Oakland had a reduced contract. Its award was reduced this fiscal year, by $5.6 million,
Right.
meaning, you know, we thought that there was going to be $17 million, and there ended up being just over 12, right? And what that meant was that when this information was presented around July, and there was a
Mm-hmm.
plan on, you know, exactly, you know, how the program would you know, be structured and right size itself,
Right.
and kind of figure out what to do in response to the reduction in the contract. I also want to note here that the Unity Council
Right. They
was the
were awarded that.
recipient.
Right.
Yes, the Unity Council was contracted with the City of Oakland and then became a recipient of those grant dollars. And so there were a lot of conversations that we had in the community about, yes, that is a huge cut. It is a
Right.
very big cut. And
Right.
I'll talk about the reviews and the audits, the federal audits, in just a moment. But the you know, one of the conversations that we really want to be having with community and with systems, but especially being led by community, is what does it mean when we move services to a nonprofit organization that is, you know, going to be tasked with administering this very large federal grant, and we do that without any input and thought, partnership with community, without real partnership with community, meaning that the population, we want to make sure that we're aligning programming and that the Unity Council is able to serve. And this is not a critique of Unity Council, but this is a question,
Right.
right?
Right.
When we have
Right. You need a
a
transparent
population,
process.
yes, a population that might be different than what the Unity Council is serving. A set of services or the way that it's delivered may be different or culturally different. You know, how are we having those conversations? If we know that the Unity Council is servicing the Latino community very well, and then what is
Right.
the track record? What is the staffing for Black community, right? And
Right.
so we had those questions because what we don't want is for, provide operators and systems to think of our community as monolithic and that we can just
Right.
shuffle families from
Right.
one system to another, right?
Right.
From one program to another, right? These are relationships. These are these are generational
Right.
relationships and programs that have been a legacy in the neighborhood. So the city of Oakland actually lost its federal grant, which is, it's pretty hard to do. Once you have a federal grant, I'm just going to keep it real. Once you have a federal grant, it's very hard to lose it, So
Mm-hmm.
there were some administrative issues back in 2016, and the grant went up for recompetition.
Uh-huh.
And what that meant is that the city of Oakland lost their federal grant and then had to reapply. There was a series. Yes. Yes,
The
there was a
question is,
question.
yeah, was the Unity Council handling some Head Start through the city before getting the contract directly? Yes.
Yes, the
Yes.
Unity Council was absolutely. The Unity Council was contracted with City of Oakland, and in what we understand is informed the City of Oakland that they would be applying right for their own contract.
Right.
In of itself, we don't have a critique of that. Again, what we want to be really clear about is understanding that the Unity Council is an organization with its own mission, vision, right, and way of
That's
delivering
right.
services. And the
That's
city of
right.
Oakland has a history in the community that may be a bit different, right?
Right.
So when this grant went up for recompetition, it's a very long story, but the city worked very hard, and I want to say that our elected officials, the subsequent mayors and every the administration. What we understand is there was a commitment to keep Head Start in the city of Oakland. That was a lot of work to keep that contract.
Right.
So we have to acknowledge that the fact that the city of Oakland still holds a Head Start contract, and that every year, because it costs the city money from general funds, they're either concerned that the program may go away, and the program has continued, right? I think this part of our campaign is that if we were to do away with Head Start altogether, there should be an outcry, right, of community that this is something that is quite unjust. So after applying for reapplying and going to up through this review and this really, really, really hideous audit and reapplication process with the federal government, which again, I want to shout out and really uplift all of the teachers, the instructors. I've heard many stories about what that was like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, having the feds come in and review your program is
Right.
deeply painful.
Yes.
So, they were able to keep their grant, but parts of the grant went to nonprofit operators.
Got it.
So the YMCA of the East Bay was able to secure an award, and a sizable award, and that reduced the amount of federal dollars that the city received. And we most recently had this another review process, and the deficiencies that showed up were largely due to higher level management and the way that data is collected, the way that data and information is collected from contractors and operators that the city contracts out with. So
Mm-hmm.
that is also something that I think community and labor are talking about and thinking through. If the city is responsible for contractors that it outsources its labor to, then where, how does that protect city workers? How does that protect the programs, keeping the programs intact, right? And so these are questions that we're exploring. So I'll pause there and allow for any questions, and before I pivot
Yeah,
to the actual
thank
campaign.
you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So I was just I while you were talking, I looked it up and it looks like we have about 15 Head Start sites
Mhm.
and about, let's see, one, two, three, four, five of them are in East Oakland, and one, two of them are in West Oakland, and the rest are in Central. One, two, three, four, five, six in Central Oakland, which I guess is in some it looks like east, some parts of it East Lake, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so like in D2 area a lot. So I mean, I'm really curious because it's like
Mhm.
then you just this is where we see a lot of structural racism come into play, right? So it's
Right.
like, okay, so we have now to cut $5 million, almost $6 million worth of programming.
Right.
So
Lay off 50 workers.
lay off 50 workers. And so where do we do this? We
Right.
do this in East Oakland, which then is
Hmm.
really servicing, Black families, Black and brown families,
Hmm.
um, and then laying off, you know, Black workers,
Hmm.
which health, sorry, Head Start workers, right? Like
Hmm.
for me, that's just like wow. Like this is another way, like where the city just continually decides to just shift resources out of our community, right? Yes, I
Right.
understand the feds and the what you
Yeah.
just explained, but
Yeah.
like the decision making process around that to me is pretty clear.
Hmm.
But I'm wondering what your take is on it and like what happened. Like I'm sure we were supposed to have Monica on, who was a grandparent and
Yeah.
an advocate around this
Hmm.
on, but wasn't able to make it in the end. But like, I think like the ways in which this is going to those type of cuts would impact not only those workers' lives but the communities, because
Hmm.
I understand that Unity Council then set up a Head Start program kind of close by, right, in
Right.
some of these locations.
Right.
So what does that really mean, and what does that look like? What's the impact?
So again, I think one of the yeah, so there's a lot in that. Um
Yeah, sorry, I
no, it's
packed
fine.
that one in.
It's I mean, so what the campaign that we just ran
Hmm.
is really just the beginning, right? So we
Right.
wanted to what we learned was that there would be 3 sites that were going to be closed.
Mm.
Well, actually, there's more than 3 sites, but there was 5 sites total that were going to be closed, but 2 of them had to be closed for reasons that were largely out of the city's control. I'll say it that
Okay.
way. So, the 3 that
I like how you did that, Clarissa.
it's the easiest way to explain it. But
Yeah.
the 3 that we, targeted to make sure that they remained open
Hmm.
was Arroyo Viejo,
Hmm.
um, uh,
Casa Faranga.
Arroyo Viejo, Tazafaranca, and Franklin. Right,
Right.
Franklin being in more central Oakland, East
Right.
15th Avenue, Tazafaranca on 85th Avenue,
Hmm.
and Arroyo Viejo. I don't know why I'm blanking on the
It's
actually.
like 77,
It's
78,
77,
near
78.
Bancroft.
It's near Bancroft. The
Yeah.
the other Brookfield was also is also going to be that site is actually being rented temporarily from OUSD. So there's conversations that we definitely want to have with Oakland Unified School District, because there's
Got it.
actually a lot of real estate there for early education. Well, I shouldn't say real estate, but there's a lot of space, right, for
Right.
services. But
Right.
OUSD wants those sites back because transitional kindergarten is going to add more 4-year-olds to the system. So
Got it.
folks who are at Brookfield are moving to 9600 Eads. So the 3 sites that were going to be closed, and I think there was about 30 employees, Head Start workers that were going to be laid off. We campaigned to make sure that those sites stayed open. And again, I'm gonna say this again. What's important is that when you start talking to community and workers, when you do the work of organizing, when you actually talk to the people who this directly impacts, you learn not just what is in a city council packet, but you really and not just what the strategic planning is of policymakers and people who run agencies, but you learn all of the informal ways that our community is supporting each other through mutual aid and really keeping things afloat. And so, again, our critique is not so much of Unity Council and moving into East Oakland.
That's right.
It is really
why not
about
more Head Start programs.
Sure. And to be honest, with the pandemic, it's in the state of California, we know that we could lose up to 49% of the childcare facilities.
That's right.
And we were already experiencing what people call childcare deserts, right? So I'm not going to sit here and hold anybody and tell anybody that, we shouldn't be opening more facilities. However, we campaigned to keep those sites open. Those sites were going to be used as administrative offices. And places for home visitors who could be, other places to work out of, offices for them to work out of, to store equipment. And, the thing about childcare is, rightly so, there are very, very strict community licensing regulations, right? So that babies are safe. And so if you have facilities that already pass community licensing, you want to make sure that you can use those facilities. Additionally, we know that, Head Start collaborates with Parks and Rec around after school. Head Start was providing meals, providing after school programs and enrolling children for less than most other programs, right? For families who couldn't find after school programming anywhere. It is very difficult to find after school programming. For those of y'all that are parents, this. For kinders, you can barely find after school programming for young children. So,
and very age appropriate programming, right? Because it's like, people can do all kinds of stuff, but it's like kinder kids are very different. They're like super tired by the end of the day. And they're little babies still.
They still need a nap, and they're not getting a nap. You know what I mean? It's a lot going on. So
that's right.
This question around, we want to make sure that the relationships and connections are still intact. I also, so while we won 1.86 million to keep those sites open, that money is one-time money. Largely, we will have to come back to this fight in another year unless there is a really strong community vision. And it is unclear whether or not all of our elected officials in city council really want to keep Head Start in the city.
So it's 1 how many? And that was, and just to be clear, 1.86 million. And just to be clear, that was passed at city council like 2 weeks ago, right?
Yes. Yes. So there was a special meeting in city council where actually, so we were able to really want to give a big shout out and huge thank you to council members, Rebecca Kaplan, council member Carol Fife, council member Nikki Fortunato Bass, who came to, and council member Shang Tao, who came together and really made sure that there was some emergency legislation, that could go into the agenda to make sure that these programs were preserved. That's a quick stopgap. It's a win. It's a stopgap. We still have a lot of work that we need to do in terms of, it does not save the county worker, excuse me, that's my other hat, does not save, but and again, I also want to give a shout out, I have to say this, to the instructors. I want to give a shout out to the family advocates who, we did a press conference. We did the action on the first day back. This happened September 1st. This was the first day of the program year. And, folks were willing to risk their jobs, which were already precarious. They felt this was so important to come out and rally. And so folks, came and did an action and a press conference at Tasa Faranga on September 1st. It was incredibly powerful. It was an example of worker community solidarity. This was mostly women of color. And again, folks who have committed their lives to young children, right? And again, an underpaid workforce, underpaid workforce, underrepresented workforce, folks who at the very least deserve to not have to fight so hard for their pensions. So I'm gonna get into like really what's next is a fight around privatization. And I'm just gonna say it because we have to start really talking about it, right? There is a theory and this idea that is old and dusty, that it's dusty, it's old, it's played, we got to move past it.
I know. This is right in so many industries, right? Not just
right. So coming out of some of the education work that I've been a part of, childcare is private, and we talk about it, that it should not be on the private market. It doesn't work. Families cannot afford the actual cost of the service. It should be a public good, just like housing and anything else. And so to put it on it should not be a market-based system, because there is no way that working class people can actually receive, retain, maintain what it costs to take care of a human being in a system. At scale, right? So,
many
that little
systems,
thing aside, I was gonna say that little thing aside,
let's not get into the theory today, Clarissa.
It's not theory. I mean, it's the what we want to make sure is that this piece of public infrastructure remains public.
That's right.
Because between the requirements from the feds. Right? Between the requirements from the federal government saying, you have to lower the cost. Okay, so we'll look at that question and address it in just a second. You gotta ask city council, don't you? I'm just kidding. So the feds are requiring us to lower costs. But we know that we can raise revenue locally so that we don't have this false sense of the pie being too small. And this idea that the pension liabilities or the benefits, that again, folks in civil service who are truly doing a service and and their commitment to the public is up for question, I think is also a really core part of this campaign that our labor partners are exploring, grappling with, and we're right beside them as folks who have seen in the private sector, childcare workers, and specifically what's called family, friend, and neighbor care. We could do a whole Monday meals on this alone. But in a practical sense, family, friend, and neighbor, those who provide care informally without licensing, still can get subsidized to do that. And it helps when, especially families who are workers in the gig economy, who have erratic scheduling, who work nights and weekends, or who require, for many reasons like disability, 24-hour care. The family, friend, and neighbor care is a very flexible option, and it allows, quite frankly, literally people to be able to take care of their own community. That is a service that is a huge chunk of our system. And, those workers make about $2.14 an hour to provide that care. So anyway, I veered off there, but just to provide context of what we're looking at, when we do not, and I know folks in the childcare field, if they see that, they're going to be like, she is way oversimplifying it. But
I mean,
because it's
we
not,
only have it's such a complex thing,
it's
right? Like
so
there's so,
complicated, but I
yeah,
just want to
there's like
paint
the
a
fence,
picture.
there's like the, yeah.
If you have never thought about childcare before, but you know from other systems and other issue areas how this works, when we take accountability away, to the public away, what happens, right? When
Right.
we leave things solely to a market to determine the value
That's
and
right.
compensation, it is no different in early education. And that is what is at stake when we are talking about whether or not Head Start stays public. And I know that by outsourcing this, we want to, stay what one council member said, competitive. We want to stay competitive and keep the feds awarding money to us. The feds want, it's very bureaucratic. Given all of that, we have the ability to come to solutions here.
Right.
We have the ability to raise. Parent Voices Oakland just finished. It is a regressive tax, but we just wrapped up a campaign in March of 2020
Yeah. For
to
Measure C.
raise revenue right throughout
That's
the
right.
county, $140 million annually.
Right.
There are things that we can do in the city, right, to fund this and an array of services.
Right.
Okay, so I'll stop there.
So no, I appreciate that. And like I think that is the crux of it, right? Which is what we at Oakland Rising, why we come together as a collaborative, right? Because
Yeah.
yes, Parent Voices Oakland is working on, around early childhood education. CJJC, Cause Jose Just Cause, is working around housing, right? Ella Baker Center is working around decarceration. Like we're all kind of doing our little piece. But what really kind of brings us together is that we do have this shared understanding about what not only collective power could look like, but how the issue of Head Start workers and the issue of over incarceration, the issue of like immigrant domestic workers, the issue of, like all of the about environmental justice, that in this moment, like not just this moment, because we've been all working on this for decades, right? What is the ways in which we need to shift policies, budgets, and the way that we govern, right?
Absolutely.
Because, and then together, how do we do that together? And I think that, what you're saying around like, not everything needs to be in the free market. My premise is that we don't need anything in the free market, but that we could collectively really, there's your theory, right? But then in the practical senses, there's a lot in terms of what we're trying to build together. And I think that this is really key to that. So even though you might not have a kid in Head Start, or you don't know somebody, I'm sure you know somebody who knows somebody, right? Like, and the impact together as a whole is really, really key, right? And I'd love I see in the chat, like, missed the first half, I'd love to know more about the city contracting out of services. Does that help or harm the quality of provision and quality of jobs? I would encourage you to watch the beginning of this because we kind of did go over a little bit of that, and we're coming to the end of our time. But I think that it's really key for folks to keep staying in touch with Parent Voices Oakland about all the work you all are doing to continue to save Head Start. Because yes, we got a little under $2 million to help as a stopgap measure, right? But now it is a long-term fight, and the fight really is about what are the priorities of our city in taking care of not only its workers, but its families. And how do we create safe places where we all can thrive? And having childcare to be able to do that as a public good is something that is going to be beneficial to us all.
Yeah. And, I also want to just note,
You're
what
good.
happened? Okay. The incredible, attacking the city's Head Start program is anti-Black. Just going to say it, just full stop. It is anti-Black. you know, without, you know, one of the things that I think Parent Voices Oakland is calling for is more alignment with, you know, the Office of Race and Equity, more study and inquiry into the number of slots that have been available. But when you look at where the closures were, very similar to the conversation in our, you know, ED campaign, and, you know, Parent Voices was one partner in the Reparations for Black Students campaign, and it's these things are all very much connected. And so I absolutely have to lift up, you know, that even while we want to be expansive when we think about who's being served, we also can't deny the fundamental anti-Blackness of the way that the current programming is rolling out. And we're you know, we have been talking for years about how can we speak about race, gender, and economic access very, very blunt, you know, be very bold and courageous about it, because everybody has this assumption that if we just serve everybody's kids with, you know, childcare, then families can go to work and everything's okay. And it's much more complex than that. But
That's right.
we do see this as an attack on Black community and the institutions and the legacy of those institutions, and want full commitment from all of our city leadership to preserve this.
That's right. That's right. So where can people follow you all, and like what stay abreast to all of the work that's happening around Saving Head Start and all the amazing work that the parent leadership is doing at Parent Voices Oakland?
Yes, you can follow us at pvoakland.org. A lot of it is under construction right now because we're ramping up for the campaign. But please, you know, join our mailing list. Please follow us on Instagram. There's going to be a lot more information. We are planning an action on Sunday in mutual aid drive and art action around the American Rescue Act funds, as well as, you know, Saving City Head Start. So stay tuned. We're going to have a lot more opportunities for people to get engaged.
Awesome. And, you know, you can also follow Oakland Rising,
Yes.
you know, on Instagram and all of the things as well, where you will be able to hear that information too, because we will be cross sharing it to all of y'all. So follow us on all the socials, and follow PVO on all the socials too, and so that you can stay up to date. Really appreciate you, Clarissa. I
Thank
know
you
it was
for
deep.
having me. Yay.
I know. I
Thank you
wish
for
we could do
having
this in
me.
person, but you
I
know,
know. No, it's
this is,
okay. This
yeah,
was fun.
it was. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Just
you. I
don't get me
appreciate
started
all the
talking about childcare policy. I'll
one
you
day,
know.
one day we will. One day. One day.
Thank you so
So
much. Big love to all of our Oakland Rising family.
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, big love to you all too. And so again, you can go to oaklandrising.org/donate if you want to donate, so that we can continue to build on this kind of content. And we're going to be shifting some of the way that we do this, so that we're going to likely have like one thing that's like education centered, one week where it'd be education center per month, and artist corner where we're gonna bring on an artist once a month to talk, and then all of the crazy city politics that we have. So appreciate you all. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Get that lunch if you haven't yet, and thanks. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.